Welcome to Company Secrets, the Nutcracker Paradox. I'm your host, Jared Redick. This season, we are diving into the most enduring, profitable, and beloved ballet in the world, the Nutcracker. Every year, millions watch it. But how are today's choreographers and artistic leaders handling its complex history and its future? This is season 2. Let's get started. My guest today is Val Caniparoli, a renowned choreographer who spent over 50 years at San Francisco Ballet as a dancer, resident choreographer, and currently as a principal character artist. Val has created more than 200 works, including Lambarena, which has been performed by over 20 companies worldwide, and Lady of Camellias, which I had the pleasure of dancing at Boston Ballet. He's also choreographed for Queen Elizabeth's Golden Jubilee and created 5 different Nutcrackers for Cincinnati, Louisville, Grand Rapids, Tulsa, and Royal New Zealand Ballet. 3 of them are still running this season. Anyone who's worked with Val knows he has a wicked sense of humor. So when he talks about the Nutcracker, what stays, what changes, and why he keeps saying yes, you're getting 5 versions worth of insight with plenty of laughs, but also intensely focused work. Welcome, Val.
Thank you.
Great to have you and take a little bit of time to talk about Nutcracker.
Yeah, we're in that time of season. I'm already rehearsing Drosselmeyer with San Francisco Ballet. So I keep trying not to go into my 5 other versions, but into Helgi Thomassen's version.
How many years have you been doing Helgi's version?
It's hard to say. I'm not sure when it opened, at least 13, 14 years. It's been in existence for a while. This is my 3rd version of the Nutcracker that San Francisco Ballet has done. So it's my 3rd version of the Drosselmeyer character.
Wow. All right. Well, lots to draw upon then, I'm sure, when you're choreographing.
Yeah, I think so. A lot of inspiration, mostly from the Christensen brothers. And they're my inspiration mostly because I still think it's one of the best Nutcrackers, Lou Christensen's. Mm-hmm. And of course, Willem Christensen's is still being performed at Ballet West, which is amazing. It's the first Nutcracker. So historically, I think Ballet West is doing a great job in keeping that legacy alive.
That's amazing. I didn't actually know that about Ballet West. So moving forward, as dancers, we have a complex relationship with the Nutcracker. What's the first word that comes to mind when you think of the ballet?
Music. You're inundated with it earlier on. Every store, every time you go somewhere, you hear that music even before you start rehearsing it. So the music comes even before you're ready to rehearse. So the music right away comes first as far as each year. You're kind of ready for it by the time you're in the studio. But the music and just tradition and children rehearsals and just the energy that's in the building, whether it's my version or Helgi Thomas's version, it's just a different kind of sense than the rest during the year. But again, it's tradition. And I think it's amazing.
Yeah, the music is iconic and we've all grown up with it and it is part of that holiday tradition. So speaking of the music, in some respect, you've choreographed 5 different productions of the Nutcracker. How did you solve the same puzzle?
Well, working with designers, I do that from the very beginning and sometimes have a dramaturg, but it's crucial that working from the very beginning, from conception to go over, also with the company, what their needs are. Many times using it from the region where they're from, use that as point of departure if they want to go there. I have my formula. There's some things I keep, like maybe the Waltz of Flowers, maybe the Snow Corps, where there's things of it that I do keep. And that makes it a little easier. But sometimes the company's bigger or smaller. You don't have the same amount of dancers. So there's so many things that go into that. So yeah, it's a question of what are the needs of that community or that city or that company. And most of them are children-friendly, family-friendly. What you can't do in North America, mostly the United States, is do something really out there psychologically, or it just won't work. You have to bring in audiences every single year, sometimes for 10 years. And so it has to keep the interest of children. Those children, when they have children, can bring their children. So it becomes a tradition. So it is challenging to make a production where you want it to go forward artistically, but yet there's some sort of standard that you need to go by too. It's something you can't go too crazy with it in the United States because it's really a moneymaker for many companies. It can't fail. And talk about pressure.
Yeah.
When you do one of these, because that is so in the forefront of your mind.
So you're talking about the pressure of to creating a new production and to have it be successful, correct?
Yeah, for every year. It's not like creating a Sleeping Beauty where maybe the company might do it every 5 years or 4 years. This is every year.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes 32 performances and you have to fill those seats. So you really have to be conscious of that. And that is in the back of your mind, definitely when you do create and when you do work with this.
Right. Act 1 or Act 2? If you can only keep one, which do you choose?
I do Act 1.
Why is that?
It's the storytelling. It builds you up for the second act. Second act, a lot of it is just the variations and such. And the challenge of Act 1 is setting up what happens in Act 2. And I find that very challenging. And interesting enough, the creation I did for Tulsa Ballet was created by myself and Ma Kong.
Mm-hmm.
I did Act 1 up until Snow, set him up, and he did Snow to the end. So that was an interesting way of working because we had to work together. And fortunately, we worked really well together. So the challenge of setting up him, what he wanted to do, and vice versa, we had a couple of clashes here or there. To me, it was like, Ma, I have to kill off King Mouse. He can't survive in Act 2. But that was our only argument. I won.
You won. Well, I mean, Ma is such a great human being and individual. It was
Right.
wonderful to work with him.
We had a blast.
I bet. And that is a very unique circumstances to have two established choreographers working on this major production.
I don't think it would have worked with any other two people together. I do get calls from directors occasionally, like, how did you do that? Because they're thinking of doing that. You know, they got to be compatible. They got to work together. But it's not always ideal. Not always ideal. But I love a challenge when a director calls me and says, can you do this? Can you do this? I love that challenge. And I went, yeah, of course.
Yeah, I mean, you can think about the dancing in Act 1. In some productions, you absolutely set up the, maybe the motifs, the themes within the steps, within the choreography itself for Act 2.
Absolutely. We both borrowed from each other on that aspect of it or changed things. And I went, that duet, the Grand Pas de Deux, we need to put that in this section, a little bit of hints towards that. But again, it was not difficult working with Ma on that. So that was great.
And that sounds like a terrific collaboration between you guys. We know how dependent ballet companies are on the Nutcracker. If it disappeared tomorrow, what do you think would happen to ballet?
Well, it depends on the country you're in or, the world that you're in.
Yeah.
This was really set up earlier by the Christensens as making it what it is today, before Balanchine's production, of a tradition of families coming every year. That was not the case before Willem Christensen's version. Financially, I think it would strain a lot of companies.
Yeah.
But also it would, I think, for future, because you really bring in new audiences, especially young children that may come back to see other things, or families that bring their children and they go, oh, I like this. I'm going to see something else during the year. So I think it would be not a good thing for ballet, especially in the United States, because it's a tool of bringing people into the art form that maybe never would be going otherwise.
Right. So we touched a little bit about this earlier. We know that Nutcracker brings more people to the ballet than any other production, yet it's rooted in these 19th century European traditions. How do you make it relevant without losing the thing that makes it special?
I think, again, diversity is important. Having dancers where those young children see themselves on stage. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can, definitely. You can add some things that are relevant today, subtly here or there, like in my version in Louisville, the Mother Ginger children are jockeys. You can kind of deviate, you can kind of do some other things that'll keep the interest alive. And a lot of those times, for me, it's subtle. So yeah, like I said, it's there. You'll fix what's not broken, in my opinion.
Right. At this point in your very, very long career.
All right.
What is your relationship?
Longer every year.
Exactly. What is your relationship to the Nutcracker?
Well, again, I started really late. Said I was 16 or 17 in the ballet school, never did a step in my life. And within a year, I was in the company. But so I don't have anything in my head before that, because I didn't even know ballet world existed. I studied theater and music. That was my big thing. But then my first exposure was rehearsing Nutcracker. So that to me is ballet. That is large in my head, in my mind, and maybe not now, but maybe the last couple of years, I'm still doing the same roles that I did when I first joined the company. I did Drosselmeyer when I first joined the company and other roles that I recently am not doing anymore. But it's really, that's the forefront in my mind what ballet is, because that was my first exposure.
Right. Of course. I mean, we all are very impressionable when we're younger. I still think of some of the first times on stage in Nutcracker in my mom's studio when I was a little kid running around with my brother.
And I was the first music that I just connected with ballet in my head was the snow scene, snow music. I just would play it over and over and over, not anymore.
Yeah.
But I still think it's stunning music. So that music right away hits my head when I think of Nutcracker, because it was the first music I was just enthralled with.
I agree with you there. I always, still to this day, the transition from the battle into snow scene, that I still feel that emotional pull where the music is taking you into that moment and into that world of snow.
And that's a really huge connection between the acts. And before the act ends, it really is that transition into another world. And I love to treat it different ways and how that transition works. It depends on the designer and the design. But it's got to be magical. It's got to be gorgeous, wonderful. It's got to match that amazing music.
Exactly. So ending off for us today, this should be a fun one for you. What's the funniest or strangest note you've ever given a collaborator for your production?
Oh, Lord. It's probably a lot. Well, again, what I repeated about what I said to Ma, I tried everything I could in my power because he really wanted King Mouse still alive in Act 2. And I finally just said, Ma, I can't do it. He's dead. King Mouse is dead. And Ma started laughing. He said, okay, but I spent weeks and weeks thinking I don't want to disappoint him. But I just said, I can't do it. He's dead. Ma, he's dead. So Ma just started laughing. He went, okay. That was that easy. I would have said that like 2 weeks ago. But still, that hits my mind because it's the most recent.
That's hilarious. Val, it's been great chatting with you. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
If you liked our conversation, you can follow Company Secrets Podcast on all platforms and on our website, companysecretspodcast.com. Thank you for listening, because the stage is only part of the story.